Good evening, everyone. So, in this session today, we're going to understand all about floating rate funds. So, there's been a lot of discussion that's been happening around floating rate funds, and this has become a topic of curiosity. So, I thought we'll cover this particular topic across just for your understanding how floating rate can help you in building your portfolios across for short-term requirements for the clients, and where do you fit in floating rate fund for your customers. So, that's the whole objective of today's discussion. I'll take a small illustration. Let's take a small example. Let's say there is a lender and there is a borrower, a person who's taking the money for, and this particular lender is giving this money to the borrower, let's say a fixed 8% rate. But for some reason, the interest rate in the market goes up to 9%, and the borrower obviously is very happy because the interest rate in the market is moved up, and but the lender is very unhappy because otherwise he would have got it at 1% higher. On the vice versa scenario, if the interest rate comes down by 1%, then the borrower is not happy with the situation. The lender is super excited because he's making 1% over and above the market interest rate of 8%. So when this kind of a scenario is happening, so what both of them come to a point is to look at a win-win kind of a situation where they'll say that let's link it up directly to the market interest rate. If the interest rate in the market moves up, and I would rather get higher. If it goes down, then I would get lower. So that way, lender is also not impacted much because even the market interest rate is changed, and the borrower also not very unhappy with the whole situation. So it becomes a win-win situation kind of. Now, for practical purposes, let's just equate that particular borrower to a corporate who's taking money, and that corporate is taking money from different people, or they're issuing bonds, and for issuance of those particular bond, they are giving the interest rate. And this interest rate is now kept variable at interest rate rather than a fixed interest rate. So that's how the floating rate works. Between floating rate has a if you look at the fixed rate has a typically inverse relationship. The inverse relationship is whenever the interest rate goes up, the returns on fixed return instruments, which could be your mutual funds, long duration funds, will all be susceptible to negative kind of returns. So basically, every time the interest rate goes up, your returns from long-term debt funds can go downwards. At the same time, the opposite will also happen when interest rates start moving downwards. The fund returns actually works starts giving you higher and higher returns. So when a lower interest rate scenario is there, debt funds generally tend to perform better. When this inverse relationship is there, so the first thing that we need to keep in mind is it is very sensitive to interest rates, and every interest rate change will impact the debt funds on a vice versa basis. The second thing that we need to keep in mind is that a single strategy may not work with debt funds at all point time. Unlike equity funds, in equity funds, you can go and stay longer on an equity fund. Even if market corrects, even if something happens, you will eventually start making money from that particular equities over a period of time when the market picks up. Unless one or two shares that gets obsolete over the period of time. But doesn't matter. Despite that, in a debt fund, the other way happens. If you don't make money in debt fund in a short term tenure, or if you lose money, then you may it might be very difficult to go back and recover money from debt fund. So that's the reason a single strategy doesn't work. You can't just sometimes invest and just keep it, and you'll have to be very active manager about this, and you need to figure out what's happening to the interest rate, so that you need to be very actively looking at the portfolios. So that's what the fixed rate calls for in any fund that is purely into fixed yielding instruments. Obviously, fund managers will keep changing their portfolios across to match situations, but not all funds will have the flexibility of moving backward and forward based on the interest rate sensitivity. So floating rate funds generally will adapt to this. Now, how does it work? Typically, there's a benchmark reference rate is taken. It could be any kind of a benchmark that is set. A corporate would set it differently. Company to company would have different benchmarking options. But for all example, let's say we'll take it that uh, just a second. We'll take it that we'll add 3.5% on the reference benchmark, then plus additional 2%, which is going to be this fixed spread over a period of irrespective of whatever happens to the interest rate market. So if interest rate moves upward from here, it will become let's say it became 3.5 to 3. It became 4%, then 4 plus 2 will become the interest rate for that particular bond, so which will become 6%. And same way, vice versa, if the interest rate moves downward, then if it becomes 3%, then 3 plus 2 will become 5%, will become the coupon rate for the floating rate bond market. So this is how the combination will keep working across. Now, just to give you a brief annotation about it, just recently, just a month ago, just July 1st, this is, RBI released a new floating rate bond, and this particular bond was benchmarked at a floating rate. Basically, this was at the NSE rate at 7.15. Oh, sorry, NSE rate of 6.8%, which is National Stock. No, sorry, uh, National Savings Scheme at 6.8% plus 0.35% as the variable. So, like how we showed you the fixed spread. So, that fixed spread was 0.35 and which became 7.15 for the floating rate market. So, likewise, a fund manager in a floating rate, he will keep buying these kind of bonds, both issued from private entities as well as from RBI, and wherever he can collect these kind of bonds and create a portfolio around it. So that similarly, the same benefit gets passed on to the investors. They would not be deeply impacted by the interest rate changes that is happening. Like I mentioned to you before, interest rate every time it starts going upwards, the fund returns goes negative. So that impact will not be here because as the interest rate starts moving upwards, the borrower as well as issuer, both of them will be benefited out there. Let's to give you a little bit of a further illustration on how a corporate would look at it. So generally, corporates would benchmark it to a MIBOR. MIBOR is basically Mumbai Interbank Rate, which is Mumbai Interbank Rate plus 200 basis points. This is an example that was quoted, so I'm just taking it here. So if on issuance date, if it was 3.5% and 2% of the spread, so a coupon will become 5.5%. And by next half a year, let's say 6 months down the line, the interest rate moves up to 3.75, then the customer will end up or the portfolio will end up getting 5.75. And eventually, as the interest rate keeps moving upward or downward, the returns on the fund will keep on matching itself to this particular thing. So this fund will more or less work in a better sense over even a liquid plus category fund over a shorter period of time for investments, because it is straight away capturing the interest rates that's prevailing in the market, and it gives a basic amount of spread to that particular customer. So that's how it is. So where does this floating rate funds can fit in? If we look at it, the category of debt funds, if you look at it on the interest rate sensitivity, where's the maturity? So we have ultra short term funds, then we have short duration, long duration funds, and then the longer duration and the medium term funds. So in this particular category, if you were to look at this, in the low duration plus, so in ultra duration, which is your liquid and liquid plus, it might not be very different because it will match up to the same rate that of the floating rate. So for investors who are in this space, who are looking for an investment into a short term period, technically anything between 3 months to 2 years kind of an investment, these funds can be fitted in over a wide variety horizon of investments. Now, to just give you a little bit of a back end, what has happened historically, there were floating rate funds in the market, but some of them got changed over to other funds because floating rate bond issuances were not there in the market. Basically, since there was no papers, the underlying portfolio could not be managed with a floating rate. But now we are in a stage in the economy where interest rates have started changing. So when interest rates, and this is not just with India, I've given you a global picture here. So if you look at it, in India, we're still in an accommodative phase. So we might remain around this particular rate phenomena for some time. But if you look at what's happening with Brazil, so they're already moving, they are, a lot of changes are happening on the interest rate. So globally also you would notice that interest rate momentum has started going upwards, and then India would not be left out. Eventually, we would also come into a stage, maybe for a shorter period of time, we might remain flattish, but after that we might have seeing a interest rate upward momentum, and that's the very time you would start noticing that most of the banks who are giving fixed interest rate loans and all of that will start migrating to floating rate interest rates because they know that eventually they would make losses if they continue to give it at fixed rate at these rates, because future market rates will keep change. So that's where you will find that floating rates will start becoming more prevalent in the market across. And India also, once that phenomena starts taking off, these floating rate funds will become much more meaningful in client portfolios across. So you can use this to your advantage. At Wealthy, we have not still added this to the product basket yet, but eventually, as it becomes so, this is probably this session is a over preparedness for you guys, because two parts. One is customers might be coming and asking you about this particular floating rate funds, and is it too early? It may be little early to go forward into floating rate because not many papers are getting issued yet on a floating rate market side, but eventually fund managers will be able to build a construct a good portfolio across different time horizons. Probably right now floating rates are getting constructed for a very very short period, like 3 to 6 months time horizon investments, but eventually in a matter of couple of months you would start seeing fund managers will keep coming out with a longer range, longer duration floating rates also. So there'll be different baskets of floating rates that would become available for us to go and deploy money, and we can match it up to the client's time frame of investment. So that's the best way to fill in the particular basket across for customers. So now some more pointers for you before I take up questions. Whatever doubts that you have, you can keep posting it on the chat box, or you can reach out to us since it's happening on Facebook. We do understand there's a limitation on how to for you to post on the questions. We can take this up a little later. So, floating rate funds will benefit generally during rising interest rate markets. When there is a interest rate starts coming downwards, it doesn't fit well. So, whenever the overnight rates change, generally you will find that particularly yields for the floating rate becomes much higher and higher and higher. So, customers, what is visible today on the current yields might become a higher rate for the customer eventually over a period of time. So, unlike the how we calculate for the regular debt funds, the spread is differentiated here. So that's where it is. And something which is that this fund will not work typically good in the portfolios when the interest rates begin to fall. So you need to exit this kind of funds in a floating rate funds generally when the interest rates, when you expect the interest rates is coming starting to come down from that point onwards, so that you can move into regular duration funds from floating rate tactically at that point in time. Or currently, if you were to look at it, gradually you can start moving out of duration funds. At Wealthy, we've not recommended high duration credit funds at all. But despite that, in case you have any kind of investments which are happened for clients elsewhere, whatever, you can start moving them to these kind of funds to make sure the client does not suffer the upside of the interest rate momentum. So that's where it is. Okay, and this is how this particular floating rate funds would work. If you have any questions, I'm going to pause for a few seconds so that I can, whatever questions that are getting raised can be taken up here. In case you're not able to post the questions out here, what we will do is you can reach out to your relationship manager. We'll answer all those questions out there. Any questions? You can. Yes, Mr. Berendraji, this is a debt fund. You can consider the current ones which are there in the market as a very, very short-term debt fund. It is one step little above your liquid plus category funds. So that's where you can place this as a fund. Not come into the product basket as of now, but eventually, yes, it will become a meaningful part uh, over a period of time, as probably in next 1 year to 6 months, 3 months to 6 months, possibly this would become very important part of the portfolio. When we start seeing a significant amount of interest rate started going up. Yes, this is, yeah, I'll just repeat the question for the rest of the audience sake. Are we supposing that the interest rates are going to increase? Yes, this is what the market is indicating at, that we have hit the rock bottom of the interest rate. So we might not see further downside from here. We have almost at flattish probably from here, and then interest rates will move up from here. That's what the market indication is. And that's why I showcased to you how the global scenario is also changing. So generally, we need to be a little cautious about the funds at this point in time. So what is the target? So in this particular case, basically it will act like a fund which will mark it up to the existing interest rate in the market. So you don't have to target this kind of funds. Target funds, basically this will give the same return what the market is getting at all point in time. So if the interest rate moves up, client will benefit from the upward interest rate. So as the every point changes, you will please keep getting additional 1% over the interest rate market, or 2%, depending on the duration of the fund that we chosen. So that's how it would be. So so all we can tell the client is that you will not be at risk of interest rate cycle. You would continue to get, if market rate changes, you will continue to get that rates from the market. Sure. If there are any doubts, any further, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me. I'm always accessible. You can always call on me, and we can have further detailed discussions around this. Uh, Thank you very much for all your time. Let's see you around.